Delusion, Chapter 5. Liam, Nikki, and the driver found a random chair to sit in. As you should already know by now, your mother and I are both goddesses. Felicity pulled a chair closer to Liam, turned it around, and sat on it backward. Back before Hyrule became a city, and while it was still separate nations, me, your mother, and the other two goddesses decided to live alongside everyone here on Earth. The underworld gave in too easily for us to trust. She sized Liam up once more to make sure he was capable of handling what was about to come. It was your mother that foresaw the return of the king and the birth of a new hero. I see the warrior's soul within you, but you bear no resemblance to the hero that has saved these lands in the past. But what does any of this have to do with me? Liam looked at Felicity, hoping to get all his questions answered. Also, what am I to do when my home has been destroyed? Why would my mother send me here? Felicity giggled a little at how much Liam was asking. You shall get all your questions answered in time. Back to what I was explaining earlier, your mother had foreseen a new hero and a veil being lifted from this city. As you may have noticed, the children and teens act normal, while most are all adults except us goddesses act like drones. The streets are almost always clear, even though the curbs are lined with cars. She waited for a nod from the trio before continuing. She was stopped by the mysterious man. If all of us adults are like mindless drones, how come I'm not like that now? The man checked his head, mostly out of paranoia, to make sure nothing was attached to it. That is a good question. I believe I have the answer. The woman turned on a radio and instructed the man to listen closely. As he did, his face went blank. The only thing that was playing was the evening news. Do you listen to the radio or watch TV a lot? Now that you mention it, I watch it almost constantly. The man began to look shocked and a bit disappointed. I used to own a custom bike shop when one day I sold it. I don't remember why, though. Liam. Felicity turned her attention back to him. This city is being controlled by the media. A bit cliche, I know. Anyways, magic is being broadcasted through the news. She got up and put the chair away. She then turned her attention back to the man. My theory is that you were interrupted during a special news broadcast. I am not 100% sure. She then turned back to Liam. The rest I will tell you tomorrow. You and your friends can stay here for the night. She headed to the wall of drawers and pulled out some herbs. I know a few recipes for healing potions. They may not do much, but they will help enough for you to face the day tomorrow. She pointed to a door that sat just behind the crew. Now take those stairs up to my apartment. The bath is easy to find, so Liam and Nikki, you two should take a shower, and make sure you clean well. I didn't want to say this before, but both of you smell horrendous. Both Felicity and the man laughed at this comment. Oh, and don't worry about clothes. There will be a surprise waiting for you all upstairs. The three looked at each other and were confused. Either way, Liam and Nikki knew that they stunk. They knew they needed to clean themselves, so they all headed up through the door they were directed. The stairs weren't long, but it was a tight fit. The man just barely fit in the hallway. Upstairs was simple, a long hallway of 5 rooms. There were 2 on the left, 2 on the right, and 1 at the end. The walls were off-white and were worn in places. Downstairs, Felicity closed her eyes, mumbled a prayer, and snapped her fingers. Back upstairs, the trio saw a puff of smoke come from the room at the end of the hall. They approached it, and inside was a large armoire, and attached to the door was a note. Just grab the handle and wait 2 seconds. The clothes you need shall appear. Liam was the first to do as the note said. He grabbed a hold of the doors and counted to 2. He swung the doors open, and a black shirt with a logo of 2 clashing swords hung from a hanger. Below was a pair of baggy pants with a chain-link belt. Next to the pants sat a pair of steel-toe boots. He looked in the drawers and found a pair of socks and underwear. He quickly grabbed all his stuff and moved so Nikki could have her turn. Inside, she found a dark green shirt and a pair of khakis. Like Liam, she had a pair of boots. She opened the drawer that contained her unmentionables and tried to hide them from the boys. She then grabbed the rest of the clothes and moved aside. Finally, it was the man's turn. Thinking he needed to change as well, he opened the armoire only to find nothing. Well, I think that means you are not in need of new clothes. Liam laughed and began to walk back out towards the hallway. Now excuse me while I take the first shower. I was attempting to take one before I was attacked. He walked out of the room and was stunned to see that the hallway looked longer. 3 new rooms could be seen just outside the one they were currently. They each peeked into one of the new rooms and saw a bedroom with an added bathroom. Not the strangest thing I have seen today. Nikki shrugged and walked into the room she was facing. Well, excuse me while I take my shower. She closed the door and the other two did the same. Liam was happy to be able to feel clean. He undressed and carefully hid the gauntlet, mostly as a precaution, and stepped into the bathroom. It was small, but it was big enough for him. He started the water and made it as hot as he could handle. As soon as he stepped inside and saw the dirt practically melt away, he started feeling refreshed. He even started feeling his strength returning. Not questioning it, he proceeded to wash himself off. He took quite a while, only to be sure he was as clean as he could get. Once done, he shut off the water, grabbed the towel hanging from the rod just outside, and stepped out and dried himself off. He got his new clothes on, except for the socks and shoes and the gauntlet, and jumped on the bed and began to relax. He held the gauntlet in the air and stared at it. He thought to himself, why me? Why was I the one chosen to do all of this? He put the gauntlet on and made a fist. If I am the one to save the city, why don't I feel like it? What makes a hero anyways? Liam had many questions, but he knew he would soon come to understand everything. In the middle of his thoughts, a knock at the door had interrupted him. Door is unlocked. He looked up as the door opened and saw it was the man they roped in to driving them. Sorry if I interrupted you. He sat on the edge of the bed and extended a hand out towards Liam. I haven't properly introduced myself. My name is Michael. Mike for short. Liam accepted the introduction and shook his hand. It's hard to believe such things could be happening, all while most of us are under a spell. Liam shook his head in agreement. Anyway, I want to give you something tomorrow. He pointed in a direction. We are close to a storage center. Inside is a special bike I made, and since I don't need it, I think you could use it. We'll leave early in the morning. With an agreement from Liam, he got up and left. After that, Liam laid back and drifted off to sleep. His dreams were filled with memories of his mother, as well as the events that had led up to that point. He just couldn't stop thinking about it. To him, this was all unexpected. He knew he was never told of these things as a child, and now he knew why. Not only was he scared about the evil that still lurked in the shadows, he was mortified that they were after him, his mother, and he now knows who he now knows is a goddess, and the other goddesses that live in Hyrule City. Nevertheless, he knew that fear did not matter. From what he learned in school, he knew that what could happen if evil ever took over. In the morning, Liam was the first of the 3 to wake. He walked downstairs to see that Felicity was still hard at work, or rather, she had just started the potion. Good morning. Liam grabbed a chair and sat down. So before the others wake up, what else was it you needed to tell me? Felicity grabbed some small bottles and began filling them up. You remember me mentioning that your mother foresaw a new hero and a veil being lifted, right? She lined the bottles up in a neat row. Well, I failed to tell you what that veil symbolizes. As you already know, you can see through everyone's disguise and see the creature's true forms. That is a sign that you are a Hylian. Hylians were the guardians that protected the lands when the hero was not needed. They watched each part of the land closely and honed their skills to spot evil anywhere. Because of this, creatures that came from the underworld adapted themselves and began to disguise themselves. That is now how we came to the idea to disguise everyone after the treaty. Most Hylians died out, and those that are still around no longer have that ability. So you're very special. She walked over to Liam and grabbed the arm with the gauntlet. I knew your mother was working on a powerful item to help the new hero, but I had no idea it was this powerful. She placed a hand on top of his. From what I can tell, it's a device that can hold items in a separate dimension. I can see that the dimension she created is protected. I can't see what it holds, so that's good. She put Liam's arm down and walked over to the bottles. If I cannot view the dimension, no one else can. Your mother was very powerful. She must have used most of her powers if she was defeated so easily. Now I want you to grab these bottles and add them to your dimensional storage. Liam grabbed the bottle and concentrated hard, and the bottle disappeared. One by one, the bottles went. There were 5 in total. It seems you already know how to use it. That's good, because I honestly wouldn't have been able to help you. Felicity let out a chuckle. Aside from the jokes, you are indeed the hero your mother mentioned. Well, not quite yet, but you will be. Heather also told me she saw the return of the darkness. From that, I figured she meant the King of Evil. How this could happen, I do not know, but I can tell you that if he is returning, that is not good. Every time he is destroyed, he grows stronger when he returns. We have tried sealing him only to see the seal fail after a time. Am I interrupting something? Mike was just standing in the doorway. I needed to take Liam over to a storage area to give him something. Drink this, and then you can be on your way. Felicity held a ladle up to Liam's mouth and tilted it once he opened it. The potion works instantly, so no need to worry about waiting for any effects. Liam saw that she was right. He felt his wounds close a bit, and even more of his strength had returned. Oh, and don't worry about your other friend. I will tell her where you went and that you'll be back soon. I need to have a chat with her anyway. Not wasting any time, Liam and Mike were out the door without saying another word. The sun was shining brightly, but Liam saw the city much differently now. He now knew that there were things that most others couldn't see or failed to accept. Regardless, Liam got in the truck and was quiet the whole drive over to the storage bay. The sign read $5 store and go. The place sounded cheap, but it looked nice. The roofs were a bright red, and the buildings were plain white. They pulled up to an outside storage locker numbered 216. Mike turned the truck off, reached over, and grabbed a key from the glove compartment. They both got out and approached the garage. Now, before I open this door, I want to tell you a little bit about me. Mike leaned against the door and forgot about his current weight. The door was creaking a bit, but nothing serious. My shop was a custom bike shop. Most custom models that customers wanted were simple and not that special. I spent 10 years on a project of my very own. I wanted to make the fastest and strongest bike in all of Hyrule. Sadly, I could not test the bike. Whatever happened to everyone happened before I could take her out for a test run. He put the key in the lock, unlocked it, and began to pull the door open. I would like to introduce you to Epona. The door came up, and inside was a motorcycle with a red body and a horse logo. I know you don't have your license yet, but I have a feeling you two were meant for each other. I don't know. I have no idea how to even drive a car. Liam walked over to the bike and placed his hand on the gas tank. In an instant, he felt the connection. He didn't know how to drive, but he got on nonetheless. You'll need these. Mike tossed a pair of keys to Liam. One key is for the ignition, and the other is for the gas tank. Well, you don't really need to worry about actual gas. I have found a long-lasting energy source and modified the engine to accommodate it. Still, the secret to the bike is in that tank, so do not let anyone get that key. You have my word. Liam started up Epona, and she roared like a lion. It was as if he already knew how to drive. He revved her up to warm up the engine a bit before riding it out of the garage. She looks and sounds beautiful. You can follow me back to the shop. Mike got into his truck and began to head out. However, the sky suddenly went dark. It wasn't clouds, but the flock of geese again. He rolled down the window and yelled back to Liam. We have to split up. I'm sure you remember where the shop is. We'll meet up there after we lose them. Mike sped off in one direction, and Liam sped off in the other. The geese didn't split as Mike thought. They all began to follow Liam. Nevertheless, he could not allow them to find the shop, and he still thought it best to split up. And here I thought we would be okay for a while. The gauntlets changed once again, and Liam sped up. It was pointless, as the geese were keeping up with him. How am I going to lose them? He looked to both sides, looking for any way he could lose them. He He turned down the street and saw a field with woods. Maybe. He turned into the field and rode across with the keys still right behind. He hoped for the best and entered the forest. He was right. The keys flew up and didn't follow, but they just flew over. They could still see him through the tops of the trees. He kept riding in the hopes of finding a place to hide. He suddenly happened upon an empty shack. He pulled up as close as he could and ran into the door in the hopes that it was unlocked. Luckily, it didn't have a lock. He popped inside and quickly shut the door. He started piling up everything he could. He even did what he could to block the fireplace. He then heard the keys swarm around the shack. Hours passed, and he couldn't think of anything that he could use to defeat them. He knew his sword would be useless against flying enemies. He sat there thinking of how he could get out of this mess. He was alone, and no one knew where he was, or so he thought. He began hearing screeching coming from dying keys. He peeked out the window and saw an arrow appear from the distance. It was as though the keys only had interest for him. He kept watching as one by one they were shot out of the air. He then saw a familiar figure appear from behind a tree. It was Nikki. She was handling it like a pro. It looked as if she had an infinite amount of arrows. Before he knew it, she had finished off all of the keys. The danger had passed, and the gauntlet went back to normal. He then unblocked the door and rushed back outside. How did you know I was here? Not only that, how did you know I was in trouble, and how did you get here? Mike showed up and told us what happened. I remember that you still had your book in your bag that we left in the truck. She put her bow away and walked over to Liam. Felicity then used the book to see your location. She pointed to the bow on her back. Oh, and there's a bow for you too, back at the shop. It turns out that I'm destined to help you in your journey. Felicity will explain everything when we get back. Well, if everything is back to normal, I think we should go while we can. He ushered her towards the Epona. He got on the front, started her up, and sped off. Liam started feeling the darkness that covered the city. Just like at the cathedral, he felt another presence inside him. He felt himself changing, but he wasn't sure how he would be once the change had completed. Would his friends still like him? Would they even recognize him? These thoughts haunted him as they made their way back to the shop.